Two people have been placed in a precautionary quarantine in Chautauqua County as health officials work to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Chautauqua County's Department of Health is reinforcing that the risk for infection by COVID-19, better known as novel coronavirus, remains low here. Meanwhile, influenza, also known as the flu, is still widespread. Joining us on the phone is Brianne Agate, an epidemiologist who studies the occurrence of disease and risk factors of disease within populations for county government. Brianne, thanks so much for being here. What is the current situation and response to the coronavirus in Chautauqua County?
So right now, we don't have any cases of the COVID-19 or the novel coronavirus in our county. We currently have two people in precautionary quarantine. And what that means is that person does not have any symptoms, but they have potentially gone to an affected high-risk travel area that's listed on the CDC's website, or they could have, been in an area like a mass gathering with somebody who's positive but far away, if that makes sense. And we do not have anybody in what has now been dubbed mandatory quarantine by the state. So that would be your higher risk individuals who are symptomatic and have had that travel, or who have been in close contact with a positive case. Anybody who has tested positive for the coronavirus would be placed into mandatory isolation, and we do not have anybody in that situation right now either.
Now, what is the risk level of seeing the virus here like we have seen in places in downstate New York?
Sure. Well, at this point, what we can do is speculate. We do expect that this will be more widespread at some point. The state and the federal government have been working very hard to contain the virus. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. But as you know, in eastern New York State, they are starting to see some spread. They're working very hard to contain that in that area, especially Westchester County. Could we see a case here? Absolutely. Are we going to do everything we can to try to contain it? Yes. Is there need to panic at this point? I would say no.
Now, how can the public help contain the spread of coronavirus? And it seems like there's a lot of concerns out there for people. What should we do?
So if you have had any international travel that you might be concerned about, or even travel to areas of the state that you might be concerned about, there is the helpline that anybody can call in the New York State Department of Health, and I can get you that number here real quick. I believe it's 1-888-364-3065. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact that hotline. But we would also like individuals to really focus on precautionary guidelines like washing hands, not touching your face. That's a really hard one, by the way. Containing your cough, so covering your cough with a tissue or into your elbow. Disinfecting surfaces and staying home if you're sick. Those are the big things that people can do to really prevent the spread or getting the coronavirus.
Now, if someone is sick or they feel that they might be infected, is there a way that they can tell the difference between the flu and coronavirus?
It's a little tricky. Some of the symptoms are the same. What they're really focusing on with the coronavirus in terms of symptoms are a cough, shortness of breath, and fever. Those are the three main symptoms. We also see runny nose, but it doesn't seem to be quite as prevalent as the other three. With the flu, you're more likely to have all of those things, but also fatigue, weakness in your joints and muscles, chills, those kinds of things. So anything that's like body aches, we're not necessarily seeing that with this new virus. If you are experiencing these symptoms and you have underlying health conditions, you want to make sure you reach out to your healthcare provider and they can provide you with that best guidance. We are seeing more severe cases among people who are elderly or who have underlying illnesses. So if you have any of those conditions, a good idea to contact your provider if you're experiencing symptoms that might be related to this disease.
All right, Brianne, thank you so much for joining us today on the broadcast. And to learn more about the virus and for updates from county officials, we have a link with important information at WNYNewsNow.com. And of course, we'll continue to follow this story for updates.